Welcome to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. I'm Jamie Greaves, your host and professional property investor. I'm here to bring you insights, home truths, and powerful stories about what really goes on in property investment, business, and growing your dream lifestyle. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. Here we are, episode 2, and this one is called Allow Me to Introduce Myself. So this is background into myself, your host, Jamie Greaves, and this is going to be packed full of lessons for you. Okay, so why is this important? Well, there's always so many lessons in everyone's story. We all have a story, and there'll be inspiration and lessons in here for you. So this podcast is all going to be about me, but really it's about you. So as you're listening to my story and my background, relate it to yourself and pick up lessons that you can apply to your investing, to your business, to your lifestyle for your benefit. And that was me drinking a bit of water because I like to record everything authentically. And if you hear children playing outside, that's because they are. So, to start with, my background is very working class. So I'm from Sheffield in the north of England. I've moved around a lot, been a bit of a professional gypsy, but I started off in Sheffield and now that's where I'm back living. And started out very working class. So my dad was a taxi driver. And as was the case back in the 90s, my mother looked after us. That was more than a full-time job for her, bless her. We didn't own our own home. We didn't come from wealth. We didn't come from any level of wealth whatsoever, really. Having said that, obviously very, very grateful that I was brought up in England, and there's significantly harder places to grow up. So while I call myself working class, it's still probably top 10% in the world. So what's important to note is I didn't come from wealth, but I built wealth. So if you're sat here or on the commute or at the gym or sat down, however you're listening to this, and you're not coming from a position of wealth, it's no problem. You can grow a property portfolio. You can become financially free anyway. But if you have got some wealth or if you have got some inheritance, brilliant, that'll be helpful. But if you don't need it. Okay, so in terms of my own story, I had a very happy upbringing, but it was unfortunately tinged with heartache. So I lost my mother to breast cancer at age 14, and it wasn't a pretty fight. Anyone who's lost a loved one to terminal cancer will know it's not pretty. So whilst we were happy, childhoods, it was tinged with sadness. And then just to compound that, my father suffered brain injury. So they split, and then unfortunately he was in a car accident, not of his own fault. He suffered brain injury. So a bit of a double whammy really growing up. But it instilled a drive and a compassion in me that is still here today. And if you've gone through anything, that doesn't need to define you. Okay, so anything that we go through doesn't need to define us whatsoever. We can dictate our own future. Okay, so hopefully you can relate to that. And then as I went on through the years, I ended up going to university and got a first class degree somehow. And then I had a brilliant decade-long career. Okay, this is when we're going to get more related to property investment now. Okay, so I firstly worked in recruitment, which was, wow, a hell of an introduction to a working career. I was recruiting recruiters, which was rather challenging. And then I had an urge to work in something that I loved. So I love sports and music. So I ended up working for the rest of my career within sports and music. But I had an itch in the background, something telling me that there was more out there, and I could do more and I should do more. And to be honest, I didn't quite fancy working until I was 70 years old. I saw the path of my peers around me and it didn't really appeal. I looked at their lifestyles and their happiness levels and their ability to go on how many holidays they could per year, and it just didn't appeal. And I had this urge to do more. And I knew there was more out there, but it was quite well hidden because we're just not taught it. We're taught, certainly in the UK, I went to what I call a normal school, nothing paid for, obviously, and all we're taught is to work and save and work and save. And there's other smarter ways of doing this. And I've accelerated more in the past 5 years than what I had done for 30 years prior to that. And if we look into the UK now, we can't rely upon anyone else. So we can't rely upon an employee or the government to give ourselves and our family full freedom. It's just the world's changed. But we can do this as the individual. So you listen to this. You can take control of your future and you can get full freedom. but it's down to us to do so. It really is. So my why, and this is something that I'm going to talk about in the next episode, because having a strong, clear why is very, very important and a good differentiator between those who are successful and those who aren't. And my why has always been really clear. So I've got 2 younger siblings who've got special needs. And they're on the autistic spectrum as well. So you can imagine that I've lost parents and I've got special needs. So siblings who've got special needs. So it means that I run a very, very ethical lifestyle and a very ethical business. And really, my why started out with them. And I've got a very, very kind of ethical way of working for that reason, really. So all I knew was what we were taught. And what are we taught? Well, I won't go down the full angle on this podcast, but we're taught to work hard, to go and ideally get an education or an apprenticeship, and then to work and save and work and save. But we can't save our way to financial freedom. Okay, I'm aware of Dave Ramsey, I'm aware of the FIRE system, but we can't. The best way is to earn our way there. Okay. And no one around me ever discussed things like financial freedom, investment, good and bad debt, living life on your own terms, having more than 20 days holiday a year. I've had more 20 days. I've had more holidays in the past month than that. So, and this is really, really common, isn't it? So it's common that we look around us, and it's all we know, unfortunately, and particularly for those who are coming from, say, quote unquote normal upbringings, but should we just say, like, for the working and middle class of us, we're not taught these things. We're not. With the whole school curriculum is just wrong, isn't it? Where some of the things that we're taught is not useful, but we're not taught things like good and bad debt. We're not taught how to apply for mortgages and how important a credit rating is, and how we can live a life on our own terms. And it depends how deep down the rabbit hole we want to go. I'll gauge feedback on that. If you'd like me to go down the rabbit hole on that on a future episode, I can do. But it's fair to say I've got some very strong views of around that. But it really is true. So that's all I knew. So for 10 years after graduating university, I worked, I saved. It's all I knew. I didn't really know what I was saving for, but I knew there was something bigger out there. And then and we all come to this aha moment. Okay, so have a think about that. What's your aha moment? What's your story? What's your why? And what's your aha moment? And it's like you likely have had your aha moment before finding this podcast. Okay, because you now see you can get this kind of information. Well, mine came when I was recording this 7 years ago. So I was living and working in New Zealand. I had an amazing job over there. And I was on holiday in Fiji, of all places, which remains the most beautiful place I've been, just breathtaking. But I was burned out. I was completely what happened to me happens to a lot of people who are hardworking and driven. I'd kept getting promotions in my career, and at that point I was head of commercial, so a decent job. But the more that I progressed, okay, I got paid more, but I also got taxed more. And the less time I had, the less energy I had for what mattered most to me. And what mattered most to me is my family. It's my health. It's traveling. It's enjoying life. Okay, it's very fragile, this life we live. And I had less time and energy for it. And I'll never, ever forget. So I was looking to bring my siblings over to New Zealand for Christmas. I was going to pay for their flights and so forth and bring them on. And I couldn't get enough time off work because I was senior in my role, and it was a very brilliant role of that. I couldn't get enough time to justify their trip over, and that's when it started to dawn on me. I was like, am I doing the right thing here? Is there something bigger? Is there something better? And essentially, I started to ask myself questions like, how can I earn decent money without working myself to the bone? How can I allow my family to travel as well? How can I have energy to travel with them and time to travel with them? What good is money if we don't have time? Okay, so if we're earning really good money but we don't have time, we're gonna miss birthdays and celebrations, and we're gonna miss what's important in life. And I started to ask these relatively deep introspective questions of myself. And I was age 30 then. It's five years ago. Some brilliant people get into property when they're 18 years old. I think amazing. The red pill blue pill moment. Some people realize this when they're 60, 70, 80. So it's not a race. It's not a competition. This is just my story when it happened to me. But don't compare yourself to me. And I will cover that in a later episode. But just hopefully take some inspiration through my story and just know that if I can do this, you can definitely do this as well, okay? And so I'm there lying on a beach in Fiji. I was lying on a hammock, and I downloaded various books on my Kindle. And a couple of them were like sports autobiographies for my holiday. And but one was Rich Dad Poor Dad that a friend had recommended because I explained to my friend that look I'm working to the bone here, but I don't have any time or energy for holidays. And yeah, so it was recommended to me, and I'm sure many of you have listened to it. But just to be clear, as I've listened or read it, but if you haven't, please read this book. Okay, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I will drop a link to it in the show notes. Okay, it's quite fun saying that for the first time. I've heard that 1,000 times on other podcasts, but I will drop a link on it so you can watch it. And this was my first formal education to, should we say, professional and personal development, and it opened my mind. I think, and this sounds harsh to Newcastle University, but I honestly think that one book taught me more valuable information than my 3 years at university, maybe my prior 20 years in UK education. Because wow, it just opened my mind up in sense of assets and liabilities and compound interest and good debt and bad debt and how to earn cash flow first and then enjoy assets and life with them. And wow, and those who've read it, some of you will get to that point of understanding without it, no problem. But if you read or watch this, it'll just accelerate the understanding of it. And I haven't looked back since. So I knew there was something more out there. I knew there was a different way of doing it. I knew that if I could understand this world of investing, that I could live a life on my terms and I could create my dream lifestyle. And it was really the Rich Dad Poor Dad that started it. I then nothing happens overnight, does it? The seed was planted. And I knew just then, okay, there's a way of getting consistent income coming in, where I'm earning money while I sleep, and then I can do what's important to me. I can spend time with family. I can take them to health appointments. I can travel the world. I can enjoy life to its fullest because it's a fragile but fun thing to enjoy. So I spent a lot of time researching. I went down the rabbit hole that maybe some of you are now doing now if you're just starting out. I spent a lot of time researching, and to begin with, I wasn't focused on property. I was looking at all different asset classes and a good way of earning, because there's various ways of earning a passive income, and that was goal number one. I looked into stocks and shares and gold and silver and Bitcoin and you name it. But then I landed on property. Okay, through that research, I love the fact that you can touch it, you can feel it, it's real. Banks lend on it, there's good leverage, it's smart, and it's very, very safe. My risk profile is very cautious. I grew up poor, so I don't want to be there again, and I've got no ambition to ever look backwards, look forward. But I am risk averse in everything that I do. So and that's worked out well for me within the investment career. But because of that, I spent a lot of time researching, just to say. So I spent a good 2 years almost, because I was destined to come back after 2 years in New Zealand. I spent a lot of time researching whilst in my career. Okay, maybe cheeky, maybe cheeky, but yeah, it was something that I absolutely am grateful for now. So I did 2 years prior research. Does that mean that everything went smoothly? No. That's going to be one of the beauties of this podcast. I'll share with you the full home truths. I've done a lot of things wrong in growing the portfolio, and there's right and wrong ways of doing it. And honestly, learn lessons and you'll be able to apply them and do things quicker and better than I did. Just for those who've got acute listening skills, if you can hear some children playing outside, that's because there are. I'm a big fan of stoicism, and I'll cover mindset on a future podcast, and they've just started playing. They've not played all day, and now they're playing outside just when the podcast is being recorded. I love that. But yeah, just in case, just that, so you know what that is. So to go back to my story, so I was researching investment for 2 years, but unfortunately, when I started investing in property, it did not go well. Okay, I was terrible. I made loads of obvious, looking back now, hindsight's 2020, I made loads of obvious mistakes. Okay, I tried to do everything alone. I wasn't focused enough. Okay, and it just didn't work. I also had limiting beliefs looking back now that I'm aware of them now that I could get rid of. But we need to be conscious of what we're bringing through our childhood and our development when we start investing, because it's a whole different thing. Rather than earning money, often you're putting down deposits and you're sending banks and solicitors significant sums of money. So it was a whole mindset shift that I needed. So I did not start out successful, and that's good for you. Because you know that if you've started and you're not being successful, that's okay. It's normal. A lot of people go wrong early on, and until they get the right focus and the right strategy and the right guidance and the right support and the right knowledge, that you may go wrong. You may have already gone wrong. That's okay. That's okay. Pretty much every single person that I speak with now who is built a huge portfolio or is living life on their terms, they've made major errors. They've made major cock-ups, pardon my French. But they're now successful. So it's okay. Okay, so if you haven't started, brilliant. You're getting yourself educated beforehand. Good on you. But if you have, and either you've lost money or deals have gone wrong, or you're finding yourself hitting the same kind of barriers and limiting beliefs, it's okay. It's perfectly normal. There's a way around it. There's a solution to everything. There really, really is. Okay. And I'll be covering more about all of my mistakes and my top tips, everything like that on future episodes. So tune in for those. I can't wait to get stuck into those. Today's just more of an introductory into me, so you can hopefully take some inspiration, some lessons from it. The good news is, and so why I can do this podcast with you with some authority and not just tell you all the horror stories, but show you the light, show you the great things property can do as well. I figured it out. Eventually, we figured it out. Now, and as I record this now, my property portfolio is worth £7 million. Okay. I know numbers are thrown around there lightly, and I do not say that lightly because I'm immensely grateful for that. I did not start out with huge funds. I did not. My own savings ran out after our first purchase, because properties can be expensive things to buy. But I've worked very, very ethically with other people within property, which is an amazing thing you can do within property, and grown a very, very large portfolio from scratch. And I'll cover more about my portfolio in future episodes, which I'm going to pack full of lessons for you. Now, in that time, this included buying 18 properties over 18 crazy months. Honestly, looking back, we were madmen. And that was that period in itself was during COVID. But there's so many lessons in there that I can't wait to share with you. And now, as I look back, now I've built a lifelong legacy for my family, and I wake up grateful and proud every single day. Every day, what I do for a living now is grateful. The fact that I can have holidays when I want, and just the little things that really matter to me. My brother had a medical appointment recently. He's a bit nervous to go, so I went with him, for him, handled it, and then just took the rest of the day off to treat him to lunch, and we went out for a nice walk. And it's a beautiful day. I didn't have a boss to answer to, didn't have any work to catch up on afterwards, because I can do things in my own time. And it's a really rewarding feel. So I'm for those who are similar, I'm not about Lamborghinis and pictures in front of doped up tigers. I don't care for that. I've got an old soul. Okay, I'm not a young materialistic mind. I love family and friends and good food and travel and sunsets and holidays, and properties allow me for that. Okay, so I've built this lifelong legacy, which I'm really, really proud of. Okay, so now you know more about me. Okay, now what can you take from my background? Well, I hope a lot. I hope you can take a lot. So I've grown a multi-million-pound property portfolio in a small number of years from scratch. So if I can do that, you can do that. You really can do that. This is no Tony Robbins American hyped up, yeah, buddy, high five moment. It's just the truth. We often think that things aren't achievable because no one else around me has done it. Maybe you're that person that I was 5 years ago, 7 years ago, where you look around your friends and your family and no one's ever invested in property. Everyone was trying to save up to buy their own property. But that's it. Well, hopefully you can take some inspiration that was me. I didn't know anyone else who was like that, who was talking about assets and liabilities and credit ratings and inflation levels and interest rates and how to build teams and businesses, property portfolios. But now I have. Okay, so if I have, you can. Okay, and it's absolutely doable to live life on your own terms. And whatever your dream lifestyle is, and this is why I've called the podcast Lifestyle Property. Okay, it's not the most catchy name, I'm aware of that. I've got a business called Lifestyle Breaks. We run a holiday let business. We bought various holiday lets, and we called it Lifestyle Breaks for a reason, because we love the focus on having breaks and having a lifestyle for our family and friends. So that's why it's called Lifestyle Property. Okay, because we can create our own dream lifestyle, whatever that is for you. Maybe you want to grow a monster-sized portfolio. Maybe you do. Okay, do. But hopefully do some good in that. Hopefully let it out well and create good homes and do well for the world. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need a couple of properties. You're going to low gear them and you're going to live on them and you're going to travel the world. You're going to spend time with your family. Amazing. I love people like that, because this is what really matters, isn't it? It is time and health with our loved ones. Okay, so if I can become financially free, and now I can have lifestyle freedom, so can you. Okay, you've now heard about my background. I didn't start out with wealth. I didn't start out with knowledge. I didn't start out with contacts. None of that. No, absolutely zero people that I work with. So my business partners, my investors, my joint venture partners, mentors, mentees, you name it, my solicitor, my accountant. I didn't know any of these people 5 years ago. Everything's been built very ethically, very carefully, strategically. I'd like to think somewhat intelligently. That's debatable. In the past 5 years, from absolute scratch. Okay? So if you have some of those things that I didn't, then brilliant. Your journey might be quicker, speedier, without so many roadblocks and bumps. But if you don't, it's okay, because I didn't. Okay, and I built that portfolio, and it's real, and I can touch it and I can feel it. And the beautiful thing about holiday lets is I get to stay in them when they're free, which is not very often, but it's a good problem. So for those who liked football in the 90s, the 2000s, Jose Mourinho came in and called himself the special one. I'm not special. Okay, my first class degree that I mentioned, I just worked hard. Okay, I wasn't particularly intelligent. In fact, I was just a little bit held back, I think. Okay, so I'm normal. Okay, I'm more the Jurgen Klopp style, the normal one. Okay, so now you know more about me, and now you know that you can do this too. Okay, now in the next episode, I'm going to dive into what my mission is and what my why is, and more importantly, why a strong why and a strong reason can propel you forward. I honestly think having a strong why can be the biggest differentiator between being successful and growing the dream lifestyle and growing financial freedom and not. So that's why we're going to cover it next. So I'll see you in that next episode. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave us a review so we can reach and help more people. I'll also be giving one person who leaves a review a free family holiday to one of our luxury holiday lets. Thank you, and see you next time.